Hey everyone, welcome to my first video talking about it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Thanks to SEI for that description, by the way. Hopefully the content, you'll find this valuable as we dive deeper into tax smart investing. All right, so let's get right into it. I'm going to go quickly because we've got a lot to go over and I've got to cover a baseline here. As always, I'm going to keep this pretty high level. We're going to talk about two of the most popular investment products out there: actively managed mutual funds and passively managed ETFs, or exchange traded funds, also known as indexes. Now, as a reminder, mutual funds, the active ones, they have a professional staff who's trying to say, we think they want to pick the stocks they think are going to outperform, and they're going to avoid the stocks they think will underperform. ETFs, they're like, hey, we just want to match this benchmark. We're not trying to pick the winners and losers. We're trying to mirror this S&P 500, while active managers are trying to pick stocks they think will do better within the S&P 500. Now, a little background: turnover. Turnover is key because turnover is how much of the portfolio changes over the next 12 months. The more turnover you have, the more sales you have, the more activity you have, the fees are higher, but also it's a bigger taxable event because anytime you buy and sell, you have a taxable event. So within a mutual fund, last data I saw showed that large cap mutual funds have turnover of about 60%. ETFs in that space, about 20%, so significantly lower. Now, let's talk about distributions because it all comes down to distributions. First off, dividends. Hey, large cap mutual funds and ETFs for the most part have dividends. You can't avoid that. It's a taxable event, if they're kicking out a yield of 2, 2.5%, 3%, whatever it may be. But most of their taxable events come from capital gains. First, if you're an actively managed mutual fund owner, you probably get an email notice, something at the end of the year saying, hey, here's your capital gain for the year. Well, they're not giving you cash. It's going back into the portfolio. It is taxable to you. So that could be a big event. And be careful when you buy a mutual fund because you want to try and avoid buying it right around that distribution date. Now, the other two key parts here within capital gains and mutual funds deal with outflows, specifically manager change. So outflows, actively managed mutual funds and ETFs, they don't keep a lot of cash on hand. In the last 2 months, we've had a pretty miserable market. Well, let's say in March we had a really miserable market. And a lot of people said, hey, whoa, market's doing terribly, I want to get out. What do? They say, hey, manager XYZ fund, I want my money back, my $10, $50, $100, $200,000, whatever it may be. Because they don't have a lot of cash on hand, they've got to sell something. When they sell something, taxable event, capital gain there. Now, you can amplify this significantly if you're talking about a manager change, and this really comes down to corporate 401k plans. I'm just going to pick on Walmart here. Hopefully they won't get offended. So the Walmart 401k plan, if by chance they happen to invest in mutual fund XYZ and there is a manager change, their policy most likely is going to say, we're getting out of this. For a couple of reasons. One, they know the new manager is going to get rid of the old portfolio and put it in their new portfolio. So there's going to be a lot of turnover. Two, they don't know what this new manager is about. They knew the old manager and they were comfortable with him or her. New manager, not so much. So again, that activity creates sales, which creates taxable events. So you're dealing with capital gains. Now, a couple of things unique to both mutual funds and ETFs. First, mutual funds, they have the ability to do what's called a loss carry forward. Simply that means if they had losses, their stock picks were all off for the year and everything was negative, they can use those losses to offset any gains. And they can roll those losses forward if they don't use them all up in 1 year. That was great earlier, after the 2007, 2008, and early 2009, when there were still a lot of losses. They were able to book those losses, roll them forward for a few years. Unfortunately, we've run out of that because we've seen, a tremendous bull market over the last 10 years. So now losses are gone and it's huge cap gain bills that are going out to those holders. With ETFs, they don't kick out the capital gains in an actively managed mutual fund because they have a slick tool in there called a creation unit. Basically lets the actual people behind the scenes, the creators of these ETFs, absorb those capital gains in a nice style. I won't get into it. So again, went through a lot of data. I'm talking really fast, but hopefully this makes sense. So 99 times out of 100, if I'm looking for an investment that is going to match an index, give me low cost and also keep my taxes under control, I'm going toward an ETF. You know, I know there are other investors and other advisors that have a different philosophy, but for me, I'd rather keep my costs low, not get too greedy at the trough, and also keep my taxes under control, because I remind myself, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. Again, hopefully you found this helpful. We'll have another video next week. If you think this is useful, go ahead, click subscribe. Take care. We'll see you in a week. Thanks so much.